Tampa Bay Lightning hockey is back. J.J. Moser has returned after a 2-month injury layoff, and Brandon Hagel is looking like a bona fide star. Here is what the Lightning's win over Seattle means for them as they get started in the second half of the NHL season after the Four Nations break.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another episode of Locked On Lightning. I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And a bet that I made was the Lightning to beat the Seattle Kraken, which they did 4-1 for their season best 5-game winning streak. Neither team with a goal in the first period. Lightning got outshot in all 3 periods, but Andrei Vasilevsky with a phenomenal game between the pipes for the Big Cat made a grand total of 36 saves, allowing just 1 goal in for the Kraken in the 3rd period. By the time the Kraken scored, the Lightning already had a 3-0 lead, starting with Brandon Hagel. And we're going to go a little bit more on what he has done for the Bolts this season. And I think how Four Nations has really even set him up for more success, especially with a goal and an assist coming out of the gate against the Kraken last night. But Brandon Hagel had one of the best individual efforts that I maybe have seen this entire season to get a goal for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It ended up 1-on-1, Hagel and Bjorkstrand, who was trying to knock Hagel down. Hagel wards off the check, guards the puck from Bjorkstrand, and then shovels in a backhanded goal underneath the legs of the Kraken goalie. A truly brilliant effort. And that really started the floodgates, I think, for the Tampa Bay Lightning. You know, obviously it wasn't one of those games where the Lightning scored 5 or 6 goals, but they really could have. I mean, in the second period alone, Zemgus Girgensons and Braden Point each hit pipe at least once on shots that looked like they were going to go in, especially Points. I mean, I still don't know how that one stayed out, but the Lightning certainly had their chances, even on just 23 shots to Seattle's 37. But this was another game that they just absolutely made the most of them. You got to give a lot of credit to Hagel, of course, setting up just so many chances for the Lightning. Cirelli with a beautiful assist on Hagel's goal, just a great, almost a dump-off pass that was just perfectly in line for Hagel. Continually shows how strong their chemistry is together, and it's truly remarkable to watch. I mean, getting to see it in Four Nations, I know I talked about this last week, but getting to see it in Four Nations with a different line and a completely different team than they have with the Lightning, same coach or not, you know, it's just no different. You know, it might be a different scheme. It might be a different way, you know, pace of play, whatever it is. But Hagel and Cirelli just work so well together on that ice. And it really felt like after that Hagel goal, things really started to come a lot easier for the Lightning. It was a game offensively that was dominated by the Kraken, despite the fact that the Lightning won 56% of the faceoffs. But 2 games this season where the Lightning have really shut down the Kraken. In Seattle, it was 5-1 Lightning. The Bolts getting the majority of the shots and jumping out to a 2-1 lead in the first period, bagging 3 goals, including an empty netter in the 3rd period as well. And just 2 games where the Lightning have just completely gotten the better of the Kraken. Regardless of the fact that it was Seattle controlling the puck in their offensive zone for the majority of the time, Seattle getting significantly more shots on net. This was a game that really didn't seem out of the Lightning's control, even when it was tied in the first period up until that Hagel goal. it just seemed like the Lightning were just patiently waiting for their time to strike. They were just kind of picking their moment. And, Brandon Hagel on a breakaway, that's always going to be your moment. I don't think there's a better player in hockey when it comes to moving on a breakaway than Brandon Hagel. I mean, his speed, his ability to handle the puck and just control his body, the strength that he has to ward off defenders and the coordination to do that while holding on to the puck and keeping it in complete control is just something that you don't see a whole lot. And Hagel has just been incredible for the Lightning over the course of this season. Plus 26 for the Bolt, second to only Ryan McDonough on Tampa Bay. I mean, just truly remarkable. And he has really broken out for Tampa this year and turned himself into a star of the game. And in this case, his star turned into just starting the attack for the Lightning. I mean, the Lightning were outshot 18-9 in that second period, but it seemed like Tampa was able to have more chances to control the puck and just kind of pacify high octane Seattle offense that was just coming at them hard the entire game. And they were able to spread the puck around. Brandon Hagel, the only player with multiple points in the game for the Lightning, and Luke Glendening got another goal for Tampa Bay. It is Glendening's fourth goal of the season and 14th goal for Tampa Bay. And the legend of Luke Glendening continues as the Lightning are still undefeated in games where Luke has scored a goal. Glendening made the Lightning's lead 3-0 and 13-0 when Luke scores are the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it was another Tippett, and that is really how he gets it done. I mean, Glendening really is seemingly a face-off and defensive specialist for the Lightning. I mean, that's certainly his best skill set. I'm not saying that he can't handle the puck well or he can't shoot or anything like that, because that's not true. He wouldn't be in the NHL if those weren't skills that he possessed. But something that he does so well is just tipping the puck in. He doesn't have because it's one thing if it's just a player holding their stick out and the puck is going there anyway, it tips off the stick into the net. Glendening on, I think, two of his 4 goals this year have come on tip-ins. And they're the kind of shots where it's Glendening that has to do some of the engineering to make sure the puck is directed in the correct way into the net. He kind of curls his stick blade over the top of the puck and is able to just flick the wrist and send the puck exactly to where he wants it to go, fooling the goalie and really leaving them little to no chance to stop or, in some cases, even see the puck on the redirect. And he's been able to do that so well. Obviously, it's not every game you're going to get that chance, but when Glendening's in the front of the net and you're a goaltender, you have to look out, because he is certainly a threat to get some of those unorthodox and really high degree of difficulty tip-ins for Tampa Bay. And then, of course, Andrei Vasilevskiy. I mean, we can't say enough about what he has done for the Lightning this season. During this 5-game win streak for the Lightning, he has saved over 93% of the shots coming at him. And earlier in the season, Nikita Kucherov said that Andrei Vasilevskiy has been the Bolts' best player over the course of the year, and I think that continues to be true, and that is especially the case when the Lightning get on winning streaks, because the key to just about any win streak in the NHL is a hot goalie. But you look at Vasilevskiy's numbers during any of the Lightning's 3-game, 4-game, and now their season-best 5-game win streak, Vasilevskiy stonewalling the opponent in net has been a big part of that win streak. And you can look at his numbers over the past 5 games for Tampa Bay. That certainly qualifies here as well. You know, he allowed 3 goals against the Senators, 3 goals against the Red Wings and wins. I mean, he has just been so dominant and, seeing a lot of shots and stopping a lot of shots. I mean, a quote that I've said time and time again from Vasilevskiy is just how much that he can just focus better when he's seeing more shots. And the more I've watched him since he said that, the more that you see it, because he just gets locked in as more and more shots come at him. And, it at the rare moment that Vasilevsky and the defense lose the puck is usually when an opponent is going to score on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Certainly not always the case, but what is always the case is Andrei Vasilevsky being a dominant and amazing goaltender. Of course, the goaltender is helped by his defense, and the Lightning got a big boost to that defense. His starting defender, J.J. Moser, joined the Lightning lineup for the first time since early December, as he was out for a couple of months with a leg injury. Moser came back, and Nick Perbix got a night off for the Lightning, with Darren Radish taking his place on the third line with Emil Lilleberg. This is something that we have discussed over the course of this season, but I think it is worth another look, with the Lightning sporting 7 defensemen that they play on a regular basis. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It is the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And we're going to learn more about the Lightning defense. J.J. Moser was the only defenseman on the Bolts to finish with a negative plus-minus at -1 in his first game back for the Tampa Bay Lightning since early December. The last game he played was in Calgary on December the 12th. The last home game he played, he had an assist in an 8-1 win over the San Jose Sharks. And he is back with a Lightning win. Now, it doesn't seem like Moser and Hedman's line is going to be impacted. Line 2 has not changed, and I don't think it will. That was a Stanley Cup line for McDonough and Chernak, a time-tested partnership with 2 really solid defensemen that bring, I think, an extra boost defensively when paired together, just because they're both so fundamentally and technically sound on the defensive side of the puck. The third line has been the one that has moved around quite a bit, with Emil Lilleberg getting the lion's share of playing time, and Nick Perbix and Darren Radish rotating on the right side. Radish has also found a niche rotating as the Lightning's 7th defenseman, as John Cooper occasionally puts the Lightning with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen to line up against certain teams. And that's something that I think is going to stick. I mean, I think it's something that good coaches do, great coaches, I should say, in any sport, is change things up. Even when things are going well, you have to keep your opponent on your toes. You have to keep playing that chess game with the coach on the other bench. And I think this is a way that Cooper can do that and throw different looks defensively, because on offense, the Lightning have a wealth of options on the offensive side, and they can keep it pretty simple and still get the same level of production on offense. On defense, I think maybe they've felt that they have to be a little bit more defensive in some games, as the Lightning are certainly a team leaning towards offensive dominance. And you're just moving things around is a good way to do that. I think if you match up the individual defensemen between Perbix and Radish, because we're really looking at those two as changing lines. They're both right defensemen. Emil Eilberg plays on the left side. He has played 51 games. Perbix 50. Darren Radish, who is the Lightning's second highest scoring defenseman, has played 48. And I kind of like him as the rotating defenseman, but I am curious to see how much more he plays than Perbix going forward, because at the beginning of the season, for the most part, if one of those defensemen needed a break or needed to be scratched, it was Perbix. That was usually the one who made way for Radish to get some playing time. And now, obviously, the way that Radish played over these last 2 months, going into the starting lineup with Victor Hedman, playing on that top line again, it's hard to bench him. He's really established himself as a solid overall defenseman, a guy who can certainly, get hits. He can, do anything that you need a defenseman to do physically, but he has played fewer games than any other Lightning defenseman, with the exception of J.J. Moser, who has spent about half of the season injured, and the 3 Lightning D-men that came up from AHL Syracuse, Max Crozier, Declan Carlisle, and Steven Santini. Radish has played the fewest games of any Lightning defenseman, and the only one who has outscored him is Victor Hedman. Radish, 23 points, 3 goals, and 20 assists, second to Hedman in both of those categories, and 23 points in just 48 games. Radish also does a good job of staying out of the penalty box, just 12 penalty minutes. He even has a goal on the power play. And offensively, I think he just provides a lot more than Perbix does, who has 4 goals. But if you look at the Radish goals versus some of the Perbix goals, Radish, I feel like, is more versatile on the offensive side of the puck than Perbix is. Defensively, I think Perbix is definitely a more defensive defenseman. Radish is definitely a bit more of a two-way guy, maybe more of an emphasis on the attacking side, but with enough of a balance that he plays solid D as well. But I think the biggest advantage that the Lightning get with Darren Radish instead of Nick Perbix is just the wealth of options that he has to shoot. I mean, he's just so much more creative with his shot. And frankly, I think he's a better shooter than Perbix is. I mean, the Perbix goals for me that are really coming to mind aren't one-timers and, gliding in as the trailer, getting a pass and just sticking a snapshot into the net. It's, Perbix just finding himself in an open space, seeing an open space and making the smart play, getting to the right spot, and getting to a point that the goalie is just frankly not able to save him. And I don't want to knock Perbix's offensive skills, because he's still a really well-balanced defenseman who has made good contributions for the Lightning on both sides of the puck. And turns out I was mistaken about the goals. Perbix is actually second among Lightning defensemen in goals scored, but just 10 assists has him at 14 points for the Bolts. But I feel like his goals are more a matter of circumstance than Radish's. Radish has a greater ability than Perbix to create opportunities for a shot rather than just be in the right spot. The defenseman is the open man on a rotation or whatever it is, and Perbix is just in the right place to put in a dunk. I think Radish is definitely a more balanced defenseman on the offensive side, and you're really not losing anything on defense when you compare him to Perbix. That being said, I think Radish could be a top 4 defenseman on most teams in the NHL. So obviously you're not going to switch up McDonough and Chernak. That's a partnership that you're going to want to keep. If you have that kind of chemistry, you want to keep it. But the Lightning also gave up their first-line defenseman for J.J. Moser, for a young, relatively new to the scene defenseman. He did have 2 years as a starter in Arizona, but the reality is he's 24 years old. There's still some malleability with Moser, and there's still things the Lightning coaches can do to help mold him into an elite defenseman. And I don't think that they're going to risk dropping him down and reducing his minutes. They're going to want him to not just play on the line that's going to play with the most minutes, but there's not many better teachers to learn from in the game of hockey than Victor Hedman. And I think pairing Moser on Hedman's line can only help him. But I do think that we should be seeing more of Radish than Perbix in these final 25 games of the Lightning season. Obviously, a crucial time in the Lightning season, and it's a time for big players to step up. The Lightning may have Nikita Kucherov, who is one of, if not the best player in the NHL. But in the next segment, I'm going to talk about why I think Brandon Hagel is going to be the driving force for the Lightning in the final home stretch of the season rather than Nikita Kucherov. When the game tips off, NBA action is just getting started, and there is no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing the Lightning for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the FanDuel app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. One last segment and one last stretch of the season. After the win over the Seattle Kraken, the Lightning have 25 games to go in the rest of the NHL season. And currently, the Bolts are in great standing. 68 points through 56 games, 2 games fewer than the division-leading Florida Panthers, who the Lightning have 2 more games against in this season, and trail by just 3 points for first place. And I know that at the beginning of the season, if you were to tell me that post-Four Nations break, the Lightning would be as close to first place as they are right now, I might not have believed you. I mean, the Lightning did come into this year with some untested players, with the onus on a lot of the guys who have been there for a long time to try to step up and try to take this team to the next level after losing a captain who had been the captain for around 10 years. I mean, one of the longest tenured captains, one of the most beloved figures in franchise history. Him leaving, you don't really know what to do. But the Lightning quietly made some great offseason moves and built themselves a really solid team that has been contending with the best of the NHL game in and game out over the course of this season. And you can look at a lot of stars on this Lightning team. Watching Nikita Kucherov play hockey is truly a beautiful thing, but it can still be argued that Brandon Hagel has been the most impressive player on the ice for the Lightning. He is in the midst of a career season with the projections to absolutely thrash his career highs. He's already three goals away from tying his career high in goals and 12 assists away from tying his career high in assists that he made in his first 2 seasons with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, it's very clear that the Lightning have provided some resurgence for Brandon Hagel, as it was discussed in detail during the Four Nations tournament that Brandon Hagel was ready to quit hockey before around 2020, before he ended up getting his shot with the Blackhawks, was a solid rotational line player for the Blackhawks in over 100 games over the course of 3 seasons before being traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And with the Lightning, I think he has taken off on what has been just such an impressive last couple of years that has really taken a drastic turn towards stardom this year. I've said time and time again that before this season, if the Canada's Four Nations roster was picked before the NHL season started, if it wasn't picked in November or December, whenever it was, Brandon Hagel might not have made that roster. But he was so good, and he was just so good in the first couple months of the season that there was no choice that he had to be on that roster, because it was so clear that he was not just one of the best players in Canada, but one of the best players in the world. That has been the level at which Brandon Hagel has been playing over the course of this season. And Cooch is going to be Cooch. I think it sounds like I'm taking him for granted a little bit, and honestly, I feel like I am. I feel like with generational players like Nikita Kucherov, if your favorite team is lucky enough to get a guy like that for a long period of time, the Patriots with Tom Brady, now maybe the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, the Capitals with Alexander Ovechkin, it's almost mundane to see them play because, as good as they are, he's the best player in her favorite team. This is a guy you're watching every night. You just kind of expect the incredible from Nikita Kucherov. So what he is doing, even though he has almost 20 more points than Hagel in 3 fewer games, that's expected. I certainly did not expect Brandon Hagel to get through game 56, not missing a single game, by the way. He has played in all 56 contests for the Tampa Bay Lightning, played in every game of Four Nations as well. The guy has just been a workhorse this season. But I did not expect Brandon Point to be the second leading scorer on the Tampa Bay Lightning at this point in the season. I would have guessed that honor to go to Point. Then Gensel I would have probably had third, then maybe Hagel. But, he has surpassed everybody's expectations, I think, this season. Already a fan favorite, and now he is turned into not just a fan favorite because of the way he plays and his exciting celebrations, but he's a difference maker. He is a game-changing player. That is how he has played this season. And frankly, I think that his offensive surge has helped the Bolts reach heights that they might not have without him. Obviously losing Stamkos is a big part of their offensive identity. He's the leading scorer by over almost 200 goals over Nikita Kucherov right now. It doesn't take just one player to make up for that kind of goal contributions, for the amount of goals that Stamkos was able to be a part of, especially on the power play. And the Lightning have gone to Jake Gensel or Braden Point more on the power play than Brandon Hagel, but something that he does that not too many forwards do is that he can excel in every single unit. Power play, penalty kill, even strength, what have you. You want Brandon Hagel on the ice. And he has been such an impact player on both ends of the ice. And I think that you could argue that he is the Lightning's most valuable player this year. And that even though it's Nikita Kucherov right now, currently in the odds in top 5 to get the coveted NHL most valuable player trophy, the Hart Trophy, yeah, it's Kucherov in the favorites, but Hagel might be more valuable than Kucherov. I know that's tough to say because you can easily make the argument, and I have many times, that Nikita Kucherov is the best player on this planet. But I think the extra amount of goals that Hagel has been able to provide, the extra amount of help that he's able to provide on the defensive end as well, is something that you don't see as much from Kucherov. Kucherov is an incredible offensive player, but defensively, I don't think he compares to Brandon Hagel. I think Hagel is just that good. And you have a guy who can be a two-way forward and also provide depth lower than the first line. The Lightning's forward lines have been very top-heavy in their top 6, with Braden Point, Jake Gensel, Brandon Hagel, and Kucherov all over 50 points, and Anthony Cirelli on the second line as well, the next up with 43. After Cirelli, the highest offensive player point total, Nick Paul with 31. So the Lightning need a lot of extra forward depth. I still think that they should make a trade at the deadline, but I think Brandon Hagel has helped provide more forward depth for the Lightning, and he needs to keep up this level of play and continue his star turn for the Tampa Bay Lightning if they are to continue the level of success that they're having, keep up this win streak, and maybe even contend for the division title. But a huge game is coming up tomorrow. That is certainly going to open up more of a conversation about the Lightning being contenders. Until then, I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Lightning and making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. For your second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide news stories that matter with local coverage that you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts, you've obviously found this one. So thank you for finding us. Please give us a like, a follow, a subscribe. We really appreciate your guys' support. So until tomorrow, thank you again for tuning in. And go Bolts. Have a great Monday and a great start to your week.